This video was made possible by Wix. If you are ready to create a website, head over to wix.com/go/infographics to try out one of their premium plans right now. How to measure happiness. Greek philosopher Aristotle talked about two kinds of happiness. Hedonic, meaning pleasure gained from experiences, that kind of instant gratification. Then there's eudaimonic happiness, which is more related to sustained happiness, self-realization, and a sense of well-being. If you're happy and you know it, you might be wrong. There's this thing called the pleasure paradox, which is you thinking certain things make you happy when they don't. Then there's synthetic happiness, which is our brains convincing us we are happy when in fact we are not, just because reality would hurt too much. Despite the difficulties of measuring the happiness of one person, entire countries are judged for their happiness. There's even a world map of happiness. Today we'll look at the leaders of the world in happiness in this episode of the Infographic Show, Top 20 Happiest Countries in the World. The World Happiness Report takes 156 countries and measures their happiness by 6 variables: income and what you can do with it, life expectancy, social support and safety nets, personal freedoms, trust in terms of how you trust the government or police, laws, or even matters related to business, basically how people perceive corruption, and lastly, generosity, as in charity and how much is shared or given away. Around 2,000 to 3,000 people in every country are asked to answer questions based on these variables. At the bottom of this year's list were Yemen, Tanzania, South Sudan, Central African Republic, and Burundi, so people in those countries likely have a hard time for the most part. But who was in the top 20? Coming in at number 20 is United Arab Emirates. This is the happiest country in the Arab world. Behind is Qatar at 32, Saudi Arabia at 33, Bahrain at 43, and Kuwait at 45. Sometimes said to be a dangerous part of the world, UAE goes against that grain. One expat wrote about living there, "Everything is there for you with full convenience, accessibility, and safety." What more could one ask for? It's said to be a melting pot of nationalities and ethnicities, but has little discrimination. But there are some people who do suffer, and human rights organizations say these are the many exploited workers who labor there. Number 19, the United Kingdom. The country that still, to some extent, has a class system, is high up in terms of happiness. Those Brits might like to complain about the terrible weather, the price of late trains, Brexit, lizard queens, and football teams that never win, but they are actually happy according to this report. They get free healthcare, if they're willing to wait for it, with their marvelous national health scheme. No job? No problem. You can get money from the government. And when things get too bad for those Brits, there's always a pub down the street full of merry men and women and a cheap flight to the Costa del Somewhere. Number 18, the United States of America. What did Brit sage and TV star Stephen Fry say about America after making a series about the country? He said people were just very bloody positive compared to the downcast Brits. Okay, some people have it tough. There's discrimination, racism, healthcare bills that can ruin your life, rampant crime, and almost entire towns hooked on oxys and Xanax. But the American dream is alive and well in some people's hearts. America still is a land of opportunity. While 18th place isn't bad, some American media said the ranking was depressing because it was quite a slide from recent years. The reason for the slide? Physical and mental health apparently. Some Americans eat too much, as we know, and an obesity crisis has led to widespread bad health. Pizza for school lunch might make some kids happy, but things tend to get worse in adulthood. There's also the aforementioned substance abuse and big pharma being hard at work curing all kinds of mental strife. America has the world at its feet, great opportunities for hard workers, safety nets in place, a decent standard of education, but people need to stop abusing themselves and do the Buddhist thing and be moderate. Number 17, Luxembourg. The average Luxembourger is quite happy. Like America, the Grand Duchy fell a few places this year. This is a tiny yet expensive country that is said to be home to more expats than any other European country. There are 3 languages, French, German, and Luxembourgish, spoken by just over 500,000 people. Yes, that's more like a city size. 98% of the population have free healthcare, and it's said to be one of the best in the world. Organ writes that most people live comfortably here, although a few people do live in relative poverty. But the average per capita wage is $46,591, so it can't be too bad. There's hardly any crime there either. Number 16, Belgium. Maybe it's all the great beer and chocolate, but it's more than that makes Belgium a happy country. Borgen says that poverty rates are low, but 6% of the country's population do live with severe material deprivation, meaning they don't have much at all. Social support and GDP were the main factors for the high ranking, with no mention at all about chocolate. Number 15, Germany. Cost of living in Germany is reasonable, and with a high GDP and strong industry, there is much room to do well in Germany. One American writer on Quora, who had lived in Germany, praised the country, saying, "Infrastructure is excellent, as is anything that has to do with technology. You feel the high tech everywhere you go. Both the cities and countryside makes you feel like you are living on a very advanced planet." Okay, so it's organized to a degree that is annoying at times, as some say, overly bureaucratic, but if you work hard there, you will likely have many opportunities. On the downside, the American expat said Germans are way too afraid of all kinds of authority, making life oppressive at times. Number 14, Ireland. Many English people hop over to Ireland and say, "Oh, what a beautiful country, and the people are so friendly." It's said the Irish like having a good time, enjoying what they call the crack. Okay, so there were troubles not long ago, and to some, that might make Ireland look rather grim. But nowadays, according to OECD, the economy is good, average earnings are good, and it seems things in Ireland in almost all categories are just getting better. One other thing that is said to be good in Ireland is community spirit and the fact that people can rely on that community. It's also a bonus if you travel to America, because everyone there seems to love a real Irish person. Number 13, Costa Rica. This is some accomplishment by Costa Rica, given that it's the only country in this part of the world to make the list. We don't just mean Central America, but South America too. What's so good about the country? The Huffington Post writes about this favorite tourist and expat haunt, saying the life is just good, and good here. Life expectancy is high, state healthcare is said to be great, and the economy is strong at the moment. It's also said that the country has a very fair and democratic government, with not much corruption compared to nearby countries. According to the US government, crime is pretty low too, especially for this region of the world. There were 603 homicides in 2017, which ain't bad really, and that was a record high. Number 12, Austria. This country has few poor people. It ranks high in income standards, housing standards, health, well-being, crime, or lack thereof, environmental quality, and education. There's hardly any crime, and you have great scenery all over the place. What's more, Austria is a pretty place to live. In some surveys, Vienna was ranked the best place to live in the world. Number 11, Israel. If you think that because of ongoing conflicts, Israel is a crappy place to live, you're wrong. The average income of most people is good, and life expectancy is very high. Although, OECD says education and skills, housing standards, environmental quality, how much you work, and your social connections are all below average. People work too much, we are told, but what you get for your money is not too bad. Number 10, Australia. Ever watch the TV shows Neighbours or Home and Away? If you had, you might think living here was a walk in the park. It seems you don't work too much and spend half your life at the beach, or at least in those shows anyway. If you've ever listened to Nick Cave, the Australian musician, you might have a different opinion. It's expensive, but wages are good. The economy is great, the sun shines a lot, and the crime rate isn't that high. In fact, the country just experienced its lowest murder rate ever, according to The Guardian. Don't believe everything you see in those Outback murder movies. Number 9, Sweden. We bet you knew Sweden would appear on this list. With good wages and a robust economy, Sweden is doing fine. You pay loads of taxes, but you get a lot back for that. We like what this person said on Quora. Swedes also don't attempt to keep up with the Joneses. Social competitiveness is not part of their national ethos. This means that they are more content with what they have and living their own lives the way they see fit. That seems like the recipe for a good life, if indeed you have all the basic necessities, and most Swedes seem to have those. Another Swede backed that up, saying that there are few posh areas in the country and few deprived areas, unlike most countries in the world that have virtually no-go areas and areas for the rich only. Number 8, New Zealand. New Zealand media wrote in 2015 that the country has the world's third highest material standard of living. They might not earn as much as people from some other countries, but they get a lot for their money. Education is excellent, healthcare is free, and you've got that amazing countryside that you may have seen in the Lord of the Rings movies. Nonetheless, The Guardian writes that there are those that get left behind, and poverty is a shameful secret of the country. Catch a bus or two from Britomart in central Auckland, and after an hour and a half, you will arrive in the urban slum of South Auckland, said the article. Number 7, Canada. So what about the Canucks? Do they have poverty? Anyone who's ventured into the meanest streets of Toronto or Montreal can tell you of course they do. But on the whole, Canada has a good distribution of wealth, not much crime, not much discrimination, considering it's so diverse, and good education. If you come from a poor country and visit parts of Ottawa, you might think you're living in a kind of wonderland. Okay, so some parts of the country seem kind of dull and downtrodden, but in general, most people agree that Canada is just cool, if not too cold, in parts. Number 6, Netherlands. Talking about dull, the Netherlands can be a bit gray at times, but OECD says this: the Netherlands ranks top in work-life balance and above the average in income and wealth, jobs and earnings, housing, education and skills, subjective well-being, social connections, environmental quality, personal safety, civic engagement, and health status. You could say, in some respects, that Netherlands is similar to Canada in that many people often have a very liberal attitude. That means a lot in terms of happiness. They eat well, embrace fun, cycle around a lot, and if you should fall off that bike, they have one of the best healthcare systems in the world. It's free, of course, but your employer will take some cash for the mandatory healthcare system. Number 5, Switzerland. It might be one of the most expensive places to live in the world, but it's also home to people who, for the most part, can afford it. If disposable income is the benchmark for living standards, then Switzerland is the third best placed country in Europe, writes Swiss Info. There is free healthcare, free education, a stable political climate, and almost no crime. On Quora, someone called the country heaven on earth. If you can afford it, you've also got that amazing countryside you can wander around. Bergen tells us only 1 in 13 people live below the poverty line. Number 4, Iceland, the home of great musicians such as Björk and Sigur Rós, but also the home of 86% of people that have a job if they're at an employable age. Life expectancy is high at 83. Saying that, we found a source that said Icelanders are dying to live abroad. Maybe all of that fresh air isn't always a good thing. By the way, Ireland, also on our list, was number 1 for citizens that move abroad. Number 3, Denmark. Flat, gray Denmark. Could it really be all that happy? Well, like its neighbor Sweden, Danish folks just have a great safety net. It's hard to be poor there, like really poor. But one source says it's not all about money, but more the culture, and also the leisure time and family life that people enjoy. There were only 39 murders in 2017, meanwhile California had 1,930 murders in 2016. Number 2, Norway. Norway is happy, despite some of those living in the north spending months in darkness. If you've taken a trip to this magical country, you'll know something else. It's unbelievably expensive. Still, there's hardly any poverty. You will likely live a long time, 81.3 is the average, and if you live there as an adult, there is little chance you'll be unemployed. And if you have a job, you'll likely earn enough to afford the expensive meals for 2. There is virtually no poverty here, and we don't mean relative poverty, but people in the streets begging or pushing trolleys down the street. Free healthcare, a great system of education, a healthy environment. Who wouldn't want to live here? And finally, number 1, Finland. Okay, so the top of the list has one of the highest suicide rates in the developed world. Go figure. This is one reason we said at the start that happiness is hard to measure. Is it the lack of sun? Or the Sami culture of men not being able to express their emotions? We don't know. But Finland enjoys a maverick educational system where students study less and learn more, great healthcare, a vibrant economy, and good infrastructure. The Economist tried to explain why Finns are so happy, and the answer was people just have it easy. They trust their government, trust their police, believe in their teachers, have little discrimination, have equal opportunities, a good spread of wealth, and hardly any crime. Now, we just need to figure out why so many Finns are offing themselves. That ended pretty grim, didn't it? Let's switch subjects to something more positive. You know what we're about to say. Get an amazing website with Wix. Wix is an awesome platform for anybody, whether you're a complete beginner, a business owner, a professional designer, or even a professional website builder. Plus, you'll never have to worry if your website is safe and secure. Whether it's a website for your e-commerce business, a restaurant, your band, or maybe just a blog, Wix does all the heavy lifting. Go to wix.com/go/infographics or click the link in the description and build the website you want and need today. So, do you live in one of these countries? Does it seem like the life is happy there? Let us know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out our other video called Hardest Languages to Learn. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time!